Cardano is one of the biggest moves ahead of it with 1,000% return on the line. How can you take advantage of this, and why is Cardano setting up for a 1,000% move? Last cycle it did over 2,000%, but today I see a little bit of a diminishing return, and what many people are not focused on is this move that Cardano can make if it breaks out of this basing zone. Now, before we get into just the charts, I want to talk about what makes Cardano so special. How can you get a 1,000% move if you don't have a special blockchain? We see a lot of blockchains out there that are scalable or that are somewhat decentralized or are focused on, DeFi or DePIN or all these different things. But Cardano is a very unique blockchain that is not easily replicated. We know in the EVM world, blockchains are copy pasted, same thing here, same thing there. They're building off of one another, but Cardano is a completely different fork of all these different blockchains, and it's actually more based on Bitcoin than anything else out there. This is going to give it a unique advantage when we talk about decentralization, when we talk about scalability, and when we talk about security of the blockchain itself. The biggest selling point for Cardano is going to be its decentralization. Now, decentralization seems like this weird thing that's still vastly undervalued by the majority of people, but basically what you need to know is that Cardano is the most decentralized blockchain in the world, and if it's not the most, it is one of the very most. With a Nakamoto coefficient of 58, Cardano is vastly ahead of a lot of other blockchains because of its 3,000 plus stake pools, because of its governance mechanism, because of its constitution, and because of how stake is used to vote and to build transactions on the blockchain so that no one person can possibly control anything happening on the blockchain or overtake it. This also ties into its decentralized token supply, where really tokens were given out to people at the beginning in a fair and free and very considerable way compared to vast pre-mines or vast venture capital partnerships. The tokens of Cardano were given away willingly to people at very low prices so that many people could have an opportunity to get in, build stake pools, and start this thing in a decentralized manner. Staking on Cardano is one of the key things that makes this decentralization happen, with Cardano being the first and one of the primary blockchains that focuses on a no locked staking. So if you're in the Ethereum world, you're probably really typically used to having to lock up a stake or putting a stake in a smart contract, locking it up, and if you want to withdraw it, it takes a minimum of a couple days. That's not how Cardano works. Cardano works by allowing you to take your tokens, your ADA, your keys to your coins, and staking them to any stake pool you want out of the thousands that we have, and then choosing a stake pool based on the rate of return that you would want. Your tokens are never locked anywhere, your ADA is never locked anywhere, your stake's never locked anywhere, always in your wallet, and you're always maintaining control of it as it should. So we have Cardano, this very decentralized notion of what crypto can be, following in the footsteps of Bitcoin, rejecting the locked staking or the centralization of a lot of other blockchains, and really doing something special here, building a constitution where ADA holders can go and vote and have a bigger say in what this blockchain is doing. That's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle is how Cardano is taking this UTXO model that Bitcoin invented basically and is bringing it into the smart contract world in a more scalable way, and is actually going to be bringing Bitcoin liquidity to Cardano very soon. Cardano is going to become even more scalable than it is today by doing something called input endorsers. Basically, it's going to batch as many transactions as possible, put them into as many blocks as possible, and make all of the nodes on Cardano, all the stake pools, work overtime, work all the time around the clock, building these transactions, which it currently does not do. So it's going to be a massive upgrade to Cardano's scalability, and it's going to allow the chain to perform at a much higher level. The past couple years have been focusing on building in the pipelining and the infrastructure so that the scaling can be possible, and very soon in 2025 or early 2026, this scaling should go into effect. After scaling, after decentralization, we also have the security of the blockchain. This is going to be one of the biggest things we see almost every couple months. A big DEX or a big blockchain or a big bridge is hacked, and hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, are lost. This is one of the worst things about crypto: getting hacked or getting exploited and having your crypto lost, having your keys lost, having a DEX go down, having a DApp go down, and liquidity is sucked out of the ecosystem. This is one of the biggest ways that blockchains or DApps are dissolving immediately and investors losing their funds. So Cardano has put security at the front of what it's doing by using Plutus smart contracts that are based on Haskell, which makes these exploits a little bit harder. It also requires a signature every time you sign a transaction, And it's a little bit different from MetaMask and Ethereum, where people are not as capable of signing transactions for you or stealing those keys on your wallet as they know that you have it, because the signature is required. Just laying out those three things, which you can go much, much deeper into. Cardano is a decentralized, scalable, and secure blockchain. It's been in the top 10 for probably 7 years or something crazy like that, 5+ years, and it has been around for a while. The tokenomics are very good for blockchains, and it is a very fair ecosystem. All of this is packaged into the chart I want to show you here in a second about how this 1000% move on Cardano could really skyrocket this project and get the altcoin season going again. As Bitcoin has kind of, halted the past week or so, and Bitcoin dominance has been going up over the last couple months, up to about 64%. Cardano has been one of the altcoins that has really hung on against Bitcoin. A lot of other altcoins are getting absolutely slaughtered against Bitcoin. We see some altcoins like Solana, XRP, Cardano, maybe HBAR performing a little bit better than all of the other altcoins out there. We're seeing a recent rise in Ethereum, but Cardano has been shown to be a very good asset compared to a lot of other altcoins as all these altcoins get damaged. Yes, Cardano gets damaged in price as Bitcoin goes down, much like Solana, HBAR, XRP, but compared to the 20,000, 30,000, 100,000 other altcoins, these few cryptos are holding up a little bit better. Enough of that though. How can you prepare for a 1000% move, and what can you watch to see if this is going to happen on Cardano so you can take the most advantage of it? I think we're hearing a lot of talk about ADA ETFs, and if the altcoin season really does come in late 2025, as it seems like it is, and Bitcoin dominance starts to fall to the wayside, maybe we get a little quantitative easing, maybe we get a little rate cut, Cardano is going to be one of those leading altcoins that is going to perform better than the rest of it based on how it's performed in 2025 so far. In November 2024, very early 2025, we saw a lot of institutional interest from big institutions into Cardano, and if this whole altcoin season continues, we expect that to happen. This is where the 1000% return comes in for ADA. Also, before I jump way too far into the charts and the trading, if you are interested in learning more about trading and charting, in the description, my Crypto 100x Blueprint, you can join us there. It's absolutely free, and you will learn tons more information on how to do this accurately and properly so you can get the best buy points, you can do the best things with your crypto, and you can basically learn how to do this exactly as I do. Now, what you're looking at here with me is the weekly chart for Cardano for ADA, and this beautiful base that has been forming over the last 2 or 3 years, okay? This is what I'm talking about right here. This is the base. This is your stage 1 launch pad for Cardano to go to the absolute moon with over the next maybe 6 months if we do get the altcoin season like many anticipate and like what we're seeing on the Bitcoin and Bitcoin dominance charts. Now, what is Cardano doing today, and how does it get that 1000% move? And basically what we were seeing today is going to correlate in a parallelism to what we saw back in 2020 and 2021. Back here, you can see it again. This cycle was a little bit easier than the cycle that we're in right now. It really was. 2020 was an easier time. 2021 was an easier time. And we can see the same images of what Cardano is doing today with what it did back here. You can see back here, Cardano had this beautiful stage 1 base that it was building, a launch pad for the rocket ship to sit on. It had a couple tests to this baseline, much like it has been doing in this cycle. It even had a period where it broke out of the base and then retraced back into the base. But this cycle in 2020 was much easier because Cardano maintained above these 30 and 40 week moving averages that we see here. I can zoom in here. I can show you a little bit clearer picture of what was happening back in 2020. And you can see we did have a test. We had some chop. We built the base out, and Cardano came out of the base, retested the 30 and 40 week before actually breaking out of the base and heading much, much higher. Today's a little bit different, but the same idea and the same principle is happening here. Last cycle, when Cardano broke out of that base the second time following the 10, the 30, and the 40 week moving average, it ran up 2,000%. You can see that here on my screen. 2,000% from basically around 13 cents to basically around $2.80. 2,000% in less than a year. It's absolutely amazing. It's a phenomenal rate of return. And just, imagine if you put $1,000 in and that thing 10x'd and then did another double, and you would just have so much money or so much wealth creation off of that. So now we want to correlate that to what's happening today. Today, you can see we have, again, this beautiful base forming on Cardano. It's had a test of the base. It came back down. It chopped through the 30 and 40 week moving averages, and then it did finally break out. But now this cycle is getting just a little hint of a little bit harder. One, because it's taking much longer, right? But two, this breakout came back down, much like it did last cycle, but it has not been as clean on the support level. So you can see today, Cardano's support levels have been struggling at the 30 and 40 week moving average. We have this beautiful area. This is what I call like the decision zone for Cardano, where it's trying to figure out, am I going to go up and break into a stage 2 uptrend, or am I going to go back down into the stage 1 base and we're going to have to wait longer for the launch pad? The rocket's going to get delayed and it's going to have to sit on the launch pad a little bit longer. There's two ways this can go, as I just mentioned. Basically, what Cardano is doing here today is it is deciding over this week, this week it's closing here in a few hours, and then next week, what is Cardano going to do at this 10-week moving average here in white? The 40 week is in blue and the 30 week is in orange. What is it going to do right here? It has been my base case, especially through this uptrend, that Cardano was breaking above the 40 again, getting bullish again. Over the last month, basically, Cardano has come down a little bit again, retracing off that 30 week and looking like it needs to build a little bit more support in this area, a little bit more contraction of volatility so that it can get a larger breakout, a larger volume breakout, and head to the 30 week, head to the upside. The two ways that this plays out is number one, the bearish way. The bearish way is that Cardano fails to get above the 40 week moving average here in blue and drops lower down to about 62, 61, 60 cents for ADA. If that would happen, it would test this line of support here, and ultimately, if it really did get bearish, it would break below, and at that point, you can go ahead and sell all of your ADA. If it gets down to about 59, 58, 57 cents, really starts to fall down here at about 55 cents, you would want to go ahead and just liquidate your position and wait for the position to set back up. If you're a longer term trader, maybe you just stop buying and you wait for it to get down to 30 cents again, where you just buy more and accumulate more. But if you are trading on like a swing trade, that would be the point of selling. Cardano is going to go into a bear market, and probably the rest of the crypto market will as well. Now, I don't want to talk too much about the bearish scenario. I like the bullish scenario, and I definitely think we need to be more bullish than ever right now as Bitcoin's going up. And as the macro environment seems to be getting a little bit better based on what maybe the Federal Reserve is going to do, maybe what they're not going to do, and based on how the presidency is going and stuff like that. And so what I would be watching is, can ADA's price, you see how it went all the way down last week, but has closed up pretty high to the open, right? On this weekly candle here. That's a good sign to me. It's a sign that throughout the end of the week, traders are buying this token up, and next week could open higher up here and then get us back above that 40-week moving average next week. If that happens, there's going to be two things you want to watch. Can ADA price get above this level at around 80 cents? And can it get above the 30-week moving average? It might not all happen next week. It might take a few weeks. It might take through all of June. But this is the area I would look at. If ADA can get above the 30-week moving average, sit on top of it, it will then have a catalyst to make the 1,000% move that is going to make you rich in Cardano. Now, when I'm talking about that 1,000% move, basically what I'm looking at is this move here translated to this current cycle right here. And a great way to view this, I think, is that Cardano went up, right? Well, not from the bottom, but from this breakout point, Cardano went up 2,000%. I think a realistic expectation for Cardano this cycle would be for it to go up 1,000%, a little bit of a diminishing return, but 1,000% would put you right at about around some areas that we've been watching at around a $7 to an $8 ADA. Now, this is kind of like not best case scenario. Maybe ADA gets to $5, maybe it gets to $7. I also know a scenario where maybe it gets to $11, but $8 seems like a pretty interesting middle ground to where maybe Cardano can get there and perform the 1,000% return if some other key things can happen, like ADA getting above the 30-week moving average, and then altcoin season really starting to take off with key altcoins like Solana, ADA, XRP, and HBAR leading this stride. Some other key things to build of this scenario, of this position, to build some confidence in it, is that if you take a trend-based Fibonacci extension, or if you take a Fibonacci extension right here from top to bottom, you can see how our 2.618 is right here at around $7 or $8. That's pretty interesting given what happened last cycle. Last cycle, Cardano went all the way up to about right here. You can see the 2.618 at about $3, and it actually broke a little bit above. So if we're going to repeat the same thing that happened last cycle, you could kind of expect that Cardano would be able to get to the 2.618 again and get up here to around $7 to $8. Another very interesting piece of evidence is that if you connect this high across these highs, you can see how maybe over here in about September, October, November, Cardano could be all the way up here on this trend line at about $8 again. This is correlating to where our 1,000% price move is. And when we get that big altcoin season pump, the rocket ship for Cardano can get all the way up there to around $8-ish. When we take all of this information and we tie it into some key things like ADA Bitcoin, I am watching Cardano fall just a little bit more against Bitcoin before it really takes that next leg up. So if we can see some of these things happen on Cardano, we can see how last cycle it's testing this support line again. It had a low, came up, tested the support line. Well, look here in the current cycle, Cardano had a low, it came up, it's testing this support line, and I think we just need a couple more weeks or a month or two of Cardano getting through this cycle, getting through its Bitcoin dominance, getting through ADA Bitcoin, ADA dominance, and setting itself up for this massive move that you could see later in 2025. We can also see this on the ADA dominance chart, where it has come down and touched this line multiple times before, and it actually had a low, came up, wicked past this line a little bit, but really held it as support. And then this cycle, we're seeing the same thing. ADA is coming down, it came back up. It's now coming and building some connections here at the support line before what we can expect to be another rise up higher. So this is all the stuff I'm watching on Cardano. If you want to prepare for the 1,000% move, I think that this is the base you should be watching on ADA right here. And I think the two scenarios are, number one, the bearish scenario. Cardano cannot get above the 40-week, cannot get above the 30-week, gets rejected, heads back down to about 55 cents. At that point, I'll probably just liquidate all my ADA and reset the cycle. And what I really think is going to happen is Cardano might need a week, maybe next week, maybe in 2 weeks, it's going to get back above the 40-week moving average, get to about 75 cents, 73 cents, and then maybe in another week or two after that, it can get back above 80 cents and back above this 30-week moving average here at about 83 cents, which would then be the key bullish indicator for Cardano to continue this rise further to $1, $1.50, $2, and then eventually all the way up to $3, $5, $7, $8 for the 1,000% move. That's exactly what I think is going on here with Cardano. There's two ways to look at it this cycle. Those are my two ways. And if you want to prepare for the 1,000% move, not only do you need to be in a fundamentally sound asset like Cardano, but you also need the chart to set up for the optimal buy point. That's exactly what I think is going on with Cardano. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like, subscribe, comment. I really appreciate it. And it helps this channel out so much as we're trying to grow to 7,000 subscribers. Other than that, hope you enjoyed the video, and we will definitely see you in the next one for more crypto content.